Bailey batting left-handed against Suarez. Ground ball on the first pitch to second. Over to field it. That's Iglesias. He throws him out. And that did not take long. The Padres retire the Giants in order in the ninth inning and take the first game of this two-game series by the final score of 7-4.
All right, welcome into Sports Phone KNBR Tuesday night post-game show with Bill Lasky. After a great homestand, a 5-2 homestand, the San Francisco Giants went down to San Diego after an exciting game on Sunday after a 17-game stretch. So they finally had a day off, and they did it in San Diego. They started a good series here against the San Diego Padres with a two-game series, and the pitching matchup was all there. Logan Webb coming in with a 3-1 record with a 1.9 earned run average. Nick Pivetta a little bit better. He was 4-1 with a 1.2 earned run average. And Nick Pivetta pitched really well today. Logan Webb struggled in the first inning. When you look at it, Nick Pivetta, his last three games against Detroit and the Cubs and Colorado, he went 20 innings and only giving up one earned run. And in those 20 innings, 4 walks, 22 strikeouts. He really elevated the fastball a lot against the Giants today and dropped a little curveball that was a high curve, but it kind of dropped into zone. And it really, really puzzled the Giants hitters the entire game. They just cannot make contact with the ball. They ended up striking out 14 times, and it seems like when the Giants lose these games where they're close, the strikeouts haunting them. And in those 14 strikeouts, 8 of them were looking. That's right, called strike threes, watching strike three. 8 of them out of the 14, 6 were swinging. Wilmer Flores just had a bad game today. He punched out 4 times, 3 swinging and 1 by called. Matt Chapman, another one, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. The middle of the order, that was where 4 and 5 was. They just didn't do anything. They were 0 for 8. A tough night right there. Elliot Ramos got 1 base hit in the 6th inning, and he ended up going 1 for 4 there. So you could add that in there at a 1 for 12. And the middle of the order just could not make contact when they needed to. Willie Adames really starting to swing the bat better. We saw that in the homestand, hit a nice 1-0 fastball in the 4th inning for his second home run out to right center field. And then he let off the 6th inning with a nice double to left center field. Jung-Hoo Lee gets an RBI base hit following him up. And Elliot Ramos gets a nice base hit. And this was the play I thought got the Giants back in the game. Lamont Wade Jr. going out to down the left field line, got a double. Overthrow got him to third base, and the Giants were 1 run behind at that time, 5-4. They just couldn't bring in Lamont Wade Jr. as Patrick Bailey flew out. That was it. That was all the offense the Giants had tonight. Randy Rodriguez has been pitching outstanding. Had a 0-0 earned run average. Ended up giving up a home run to Xavier Bogaerts. And he threw 4 straight sliders to him. The 4th one, he hung it. And Bogaerts hit it right down the left field line, 350 down the left field line for a 2-run home run. And he kind of opened up the game at that time. And it ended up being a 7-4 loss as the Giants lose their first game in the NL West against one of the contenders. And now they fall to 19-11, where the San Diego Padres are now 18-11. One more game, and they finish out the month of April. They're 16-10 in the month of April, 3-1 in the month of March. And like I said, they're 19-11 overall. On the offensive or on the defensive side, you got to look at what Logan Webb did in the first inning, and I'm sure he's a little upset how that first inning just kind of capitalized on his mistakes. As he got the first 2 hitters out, he punches out Tatis, and Arise hits a little ground ball back to him. He's got 2 quick outs. Manny Machado, a 1-0 sinker, really down, and he hit it out to right center field. Yaz made a great play in holding it to a single. But I think this is the batter that Logan's really going to get upset at, and that's Gavin Sheets. Gavin Sheets is DH, and he came over, and he hasn't been really hitting the ball that well when you look at his numbers for the year. 290, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs, but he ended up going 3-0 on Gavin Sheets, and they were all down and in. And he walks Sheets to make it first and second. Bogaerts comes out, he gets him 0-1, and he tries to go the sinker in. And Bogaerts just had to hit a little ball a little over second baseman's head for a base hit. A run scores there. And then Jose Iglesias, the first pitch he sees is a sweeper. And when you look at on the zone, the sweep went really down and away, and he punched it out to right center field for a base hit and got 2 RBIs there. Tyler Wade ends up getting a base hit also on a cutter. And next thing you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hitters back, and Logan Webb, all of a sudden the inning extends on him. He finally gets Hayward to strike out, and his inning gets 1, 2, first 2 hitters out, and the next 5 get on base. And I think that's where he's going to really look at that first inning. And we always talk about pitchers and starters that have difficulties in the first inning. Right then, I just think Logan Webb just couldn't get that third out, and that's what we're seeing here. 2 outs, 2-out rally in that first inning, and really unloaded with 23 pitches in the first inning. The second inning gets in trouble again. He ends up throwing 21 pitches, and then the third inning, he just comes alive and punches out the side. The fourth inning, Jason Hayward hits a little ball down the left field line that Ramos came in on and bobbled it, and Jason Hayward, who was 0 for 13 at that time against him, gets a double. Diaz comes up and just punches a ball through the hole in the right side, and it's first and third. Arise ends up getting a sacrifice fly. Now you got 2 outs, and here's Manny Machado with a 2-out base hit, a nice ball that he got inside a cutter that was in on his hands. And that was the second run, and I think that was the inning where if Logan Webb could have got out of that, that would have stopped the bleeding. But it ended up giving him 5 earned runs on the day, and that was one of his worst outings this year. He goes 5 innings, 9 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, and he threw 79 pitches. After you thinking the first 2 innings, he had 44 pitches that first 2 innings, so he ended up pushing it through 5. Like I said, he threw 79 pitches, 17 first pitch strikes, 24 hitters faced. But you look at what he threw tonight, and in his last few games where he was spot on, threw a lot of changeups, and he didn't throw. He only threw 11 changeups today. So again, he's having problems sometimes getting that changeup over. He went really with a sinker and a sweeper, his 2 best pitches, the cutter, and he threw a couple cross-seam fastballs. But going back to his best games, the changeup, he always had a good 3-pitch mix. He just could not get the changeup over for a strike. Sinker was still good, 35 pitches. He got that between 94 and 92. That's average. The sweeper, as you know, it's kind of a curveball, but it kind of goes from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock, sweeps across the zone. And really, the first inning really pushed him out, and he put the Giants behind 3-0. Adames gets that home run, and then the 2 runs in the fourth really extended the lead to 5-1. Giants pushed back, but they just couldn't get anything after the 6th inning. And I just look at the strikeouts. The strikeouts have to get better. Too many strikeouts, especially in a game like this when you're facing some of the good pitching for the Padres. They got to get the ball in play. When you're looking at 14 strikeouts, 8 of them looking, and I'm going to continue to throw that through the whole show today, 8 strikeouts looking. That means you're looking at strike 3, and that's that. That's just not good baseball. That's not good hitting at all. Tomorrow they do it again. They're playing a 1:10 first pitch here on KNBR, and that's Landon Root against another pitcher that's pitching pretty well for San Diego. That's Michael King. Of course, they got him a couple years ago from the New York Yankees. He's 3-1 with a 2.1 earned run average. And you start looking at what he's done. He pitched against Tampa Bay, Houston, and Colorado. And he's gone 19 2/3 innings, and he's only given up 3 earned runs. He's only walked 4, and he's struck out 24. A lot of sinking action from King. And when you start looking at some of his other pitches, he's got a good breaking ball and an off-speed pitch. So they're going to have to get up early and get after it to try to split this 2-game series before they come back and play Colorado. And Colorado is really in gloom and doom in Colorado. They lost again today to Atlanta. So they have Colorado for 4, and they really got to put the pedal to the metal and see if they can sweep the Colorado Rockies. 415-808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. Joining me later in the show, Alex Simon. Of course, he's a sports editor of SF Gate. We'll talk about this game and how this Giants team is doing in the month of April. As I said, they're 16-10. Pretty good season, pretty good month. There's no question when you're looking at 19-11. But I think the averages are dipping a little bit too much. Batting averages I'm talking about and runs per game. Willie Adames is starting to hit the ball a lot better. Lamont Wade Jr. trying to get some of these balls to fall in. But there's some guys going the opposite way, and this is something that's got to stop. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. One more game before they come back home to Oracle for 4 games. I'm Bill Lasky. This is a Sports Phone KNBR show. 808 KNBR. Let's get on the phones. Talk about this Giants team on a Tuesday night. We'll be right back right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Yeah, I mean, he's been pretty unlucky. I think his swings here in the last week or so have been a lot better. He's drawn some walks. He's doing the things that he normally does, and then, has a really good at bat against a good pitcher. And next thing we're a run behind. We're feeling pretty good at that point. And then the Bogarts home run kind of put a dent in that.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, back on Sports Phone KNBR on a Tuesday night with Bill Lasky. The Giants lose today in San Diego, 7-4. A real quick turnaround. They have a 1-10 game tomorrow. And then they have the 4-25 Colorado Rockies for a 4-game series. I did say it right, 4 wins and 25 losses for the Rockies. They lost tonight 8-3 to the Atlanta Braves, 8-2 to the Atlanta Braves. They play a day game, and they'll be coming in from Colorado for a 4-day series. And, of course, the Giants play one more in San Diego, Landon Roop on the hill tomorrow, and then off to Oracle. And, boy, they're playing really well at Oracle. Their last homestand, 5-2. Against Milwaukee and Texas. 415-808-KNBR. That's number 415-808-5627 if you want to call in. Let's go to Bend, Oregon, and talk to my buddy Steve. Steve, how are you on a Tuesday evening?
Well, I'll tell you, they have to somehow not have Webb in the rotation when San Diego faces him.
In the first inning. Let him start the second inning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get the first inning out of the way. Listen to this. Including last year and this game, he's given up in 29 innings, 17 runs, 42 hits. And the only reason he hasn't given up more runs is because he's induced several double plays.
Yeah.
So they ambushed him. They laid off the changeup, which wasn't getting over anyway. But
he didn't have one tonight, which was kind of strange, And the last couple outings, that's what he was getting a lot of strikeouts on. He just couldn't get it over. It just went with a sinker and a sweeper, and he tried to throw a cutter, and he got a couple of them across the plate, and that hurt him in that first inning. Steve, you get the first 2 guys out, it looks like he's going to have a nice 1-2-3 clean inning.
With the exception of that home run in the 9th, he was getting paper cut to death. Yeah. I mean, there were some balls hit hard, but they're mostly doubles and singles. But something else that hurt him is Ramos. I don't know where he was, what he was thinking in left field on that Hayward double in the 4th. He took a weird angle to it.
They had him over in left center field. They had him to pull. He was pulling. So, but the bounce it looks like he took his eye off the ball and it bounced by him. They didn't give him an error. They gave Hayward a double. Hayward was 0 for 13 against Webb at that time, and it was funny because Kruk had just said it on the TV side, and as soon as he hit it, he goes, I jinxed him. I should have never said that.
Love those guys.
The old announcer jinx. But, he came back with a nice third inning with the punch-outs, and I thought right then, okay, he's going, here he goes. And you start looking at his pitches, Steve, 23 in the first, 21 in the second. Then he really limits the damage with 11, and then he got Manning got the base hit with 2 outs in the 4th. He had 17, and he finished with a nice 7-pitch inning in the 5th. I was wondering if he was going to go off for the 6th or not. He had thrown 79 pitches. But at that time, some guys out of the bullpen really haven't pitched that much, Eric Miller being
Rodriguez.
one. Yeah, both of those guys, and even Lou Trevino didn't even pitch in a whole homestand. So these guys need an inning here and there. Eric Miller looked really sharp today. That was the first runs Randy Rodriguez gave up, and I really was watching how he was facing Bogarts. He threw him a fastball first pitch, but then he just threw 4 sliders in a row, and the worst one was the last one that he hit out.
Room service, he really hung those. Yeah, he hung 4 of those sliders. Yeah. So let's see that. Let's see if they can split this and then get healthy against Colorado, who could be out of the race by the 1st of July.
By June. By June.
Wow, they bad.
4 and 25.
How can that ownership put up with them? How can that ownership put up with them? Wow.
And they fired Bam Bam Eulens thinking, hey, it's your fault, Bam Bam, we're not hitting. Well, did you look at your pitchers? Did you look at your defense? And they just can't win in Colorado. I'm just wondering how long Buddy Black's going to be there. They're going to have to do something in that organization. It's just ever since they signed Chris Bryant to that huge deal, they haven't done anything.
That's a good call. That's a good call.
That was a mega deal they gave him, and I don't think he's been on the field half of the year in any years he played.
Well, so it could be worse for the Giants, right? It could be worse, but
this is why I say if they split with San Diego tomorrow, and you got Colorado coming in at home, you get that excitement like you just had in the last homestand. These guys that are struggling, Lamont Wade Jr. hitting the ball a little better, Patrick Bailey a little bit better, Chapman's gone backwards today. Wilmer Flores just looks so late on everything, but you got to get some of these other guys in the lineup and starting to hit the ball a little better before they go on the road to Chicago, and that'll be a good little road trip. 3 in Chicago, then they have a day off, and then they play 3 in Minnesota. So you're looking at what you can do here in the next 5 games. You can get your hitting better. You can get the offense numbers better and really try to have some good, big blowout games. And I think that's what makes your offense start believing in themselves.
Let's hope the wind's blowing out in Wrigley. That's all I got to say, right?
Yeah. Hey, the Cubs are playing good baseball, no question.
They are. The Giants can take 2 or 3 from the Cubs. And
that'll be a fun series.
That'll
be a fun series. Sure will. So how you been, Steve? You been okay up in Bend?
Yeah, we're getting better weather up here. It's supposed to break 80, which it hasn't done that in about 5 years, it seems like. It's the weather's really getting better. It's the smoke you look out for up here, right?
Yeah,
Bend was rated the number 3 city in the U.S. for smoke. So you get winter, spring, summer, and smoke. That's what you get up here.
Wow. Well, no, thank you. I'll pass on that, Steve. I appreciate it. Appreciate the offer to come to Bend. All right, buddy. Well, thanks again for calling in. It's good talking to you. Take care of yourself.
Steve Bill.
All right. You start thinking about, Logan Webb in the first inning. And I think that is a big, big mark of any starting pitcher. But you get the first 2 guys out and lackadaisical, maybe not trying to make a good pitch. But Manny Machado hit a good pitch. That was a 1-0 sinker down and away coming back on, and he hit it out to right center. Yaz stopped that ball because that could have easily been a double. But I still circled Gavin Sheets on the walk, the only walk he had, going 3-0. And all 3 pitches were down and into a lefty. I was really surprised he went 3-0, and then he went 3-1, then he walked him, and then all of a sudden his first and second. And then they really ambushed him. 0-1 sinker, base hit. First pitch sweeper, base hit. 0-1 cutter, base hit. So they know that he's going to be in the zone, no question there. And I think that's what happened there. He was just trying to make the 2 perfect pitches. They were down and across the plate, but they pushed him the opposite way, opposite hitting, no question. And that's what happened when you looked in the 4th inning with Hayward going to left field, Diaz going to right field. Those are 2 balls that they just waited on and pushed him the opposite way. That's really good hitting. That's why I'm saying with the Giants striking out 14 times, I'd like to see them do that a little bit more, getting the ball into zone a little bit and going the opposite way. Lamont Wade Jr. hit that one on the end of his bat down the left field line for a double. It kind of brought the Giants back into this game at 5-4. But the home run, of course, that's what Bob Melvin just said, and you heard on the clip. The home run by Bogaerts off Randy Rodriguez kind of surprised me. Randy has been pitching outstanding. I just didn't see on the replay with the hit by pitch by Gavin Sheets. It just didn't even look like it nicked him. It really didn't. And I'm looking at the replay. I even paused it, and I'm like, what did the replay umpire see that I didn't see? A thread, a little piece of thread, because there was really nothing that disturbed the flight of the ball. Bailey caught the ball, and it was underneath his armpit, kind of. I didn't see a hit by pitch at all. He sold it pretty well, and I thought that was one play right there that inning. He got the first 2 guys out on a beautiful play by Ramos off Machado, the line drive. And then 4 sliders, the 4th one he hung, and he didn't miss it. Bogaerts didn't miss it, and it kind of opened up the game right there. And the Giants lost today. They're 19-11. First game against a National League contender. So, all right, let's go back to the phones. Let's go to Pacifica and talk to Peter. Peter on a Sports Phone KNBR show on a Tuesday night. A tough loss today. Let's see if they can get him tomorrow. What's going on?
Well, baseball is definitely a marathon, but the California Clubhouse, which I am a member, is going to its first game on the 21st of May. Could you look ahead and tell me what game that is?
May 21st you're looking at?
Yeah, is it the Royals?
That's against the Royals. That's a 12:45 game. That's an afternoon game on a Wednesday. Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
Yeah,
that should be a good series.
We're going to have a blast.
Yeah, Kansas City's playing pretty well, and that'll be a 3-game series against the Kansas City Royals. They have the Athletics coming in Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and they also have the Diamondbacks. That's a pretty long homestand for the Giants. That's a 9-game homestand, and that'll be the final game of that homestand. But that'll be a good time for you, Peter.
Anybody cares about the mentally ill, they could donate to CaliforniaClubhouse.org.
Good job. Okay, what else is going on? What do you like about the Giants, Peter? Anything you've seen so far?
My father's job was to entertain people, so I've been following the Giants ever since I was a little kid. I can remember Lon Simmons and all of them.
Good. All right, well, you have a good night, Peter, and enjoy the game on May 21st. That'll be a good one against the Kansas City Royals. All right, we're going to take a quick break here, 415-808-5627 if you want to give me a call. Alex Simon's going to join me a little bit about the Giants and some inside stuff that he may know. Of course, he's one of those snoopers of the SF gate. Love talking to him. He always gives me some good insight. So we'll talk to Alex Simon a little bit. Let's have a couple more calls, 808 KNBR. We'll take a quick break. My name's Bill Lasky. This is Sports Phone KNBR, and we're on KNBR, the sports leader.
Adames drives one deep right center field. Tatis chasing at the wall. Gone! Willie Adames goes to right center.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, welcome back to Sports Phone KNBR on a Tuesday night. Giants lose in San Diego 7-4. That home run by Willie Adames was the first hit by the Giants. That came in the top of the fourth inning. Took a 1-0 fastball by Pivetta and drove it out 399 feet to right center field for his second home run of the year. He also had a double leading off the sixth inning. He was the only one that had two hits for the Giants. He went 2 for 4. Jung-Hoo Lee went 1 for 4 with an RBI. Ramos went 1 for 4. Lamont Wade Jr. went 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Patrick Bailey and Tyler Fitzgerald also had 1 hit each. They had 7 hits total. 4 runs, of course, but the big number on this night was 14 strikeouts, 14 of them, 8 looking and 6 swinging. So they got to get better tomorrow against Michael King, a right-hander. That first pitch is going to be 110, and Landon Roop's going to get another start. I think Landon's been throwing real well, 26-year-old. Pitched okay. He pitched really well against the Angels, where he went 7 innings, only giving up 2 earned runs. Had a little trouble against the Brewers. He only went 3 2/3 innings, giving up 3 earned runs. Looking for a better start from him, especially with the fastball and the big curveball. And hopefully he'll throw that cutter in there and a changeup. We haven't seen much of that. That was the 2 pitches he was working out of spring training. A couple games in the National League West tonight. The Dodgers beat the Marlins 15-2. They are now 20-10. The Diamondbacks lost in New York City tonight against the Mets 8-3. The Mets are now 21-9. The D-backs are 15-14. And of course, the dismal Colorado Rockies lost to Atlanta today in Colorado 8-2. They are now 4-25. So if you're looking at the standings in the NL West, the Dodgers are in first place at 19-10. The Giants are half a game out, 19-11. San Diego's 1 game out, 18-11. Arizona's 4 games back, and Colorado is 15 games back already, and they're 1-9 in their last 10. All right, let's go to Mike in Fresno, 808 KNBR. If you want to get on the phone lines, what's up, Mike? How are you doing on a Tuesday night?
Good. How are you doing, Bill?
Well, I as a pitcher, I'm looking at strikeouts. I always look at that on the offensive side, and they just could not get ball on bat tonight. It was really struggled. They struggled, and I always look at strikeouts looking. And if the pitch is nasty, like a split finger, but Pivetta was keeping the ball elevated tonight. He threw a couple curveballs that he got strike 3s on. Mostly what he threw were fastballs. He was 96, 97. And he's been in the zone the whole year. When you look at his numbers totally, he's only walked 8 guys, and he struck out 39, and that's in 5 or 6 starts. he's now 5-1 for the Padres. So a good pickup by the Padres over the winter.
Yeah, and the strikeouts looking. I always wonder. It's like because a lot of them he threw a 4-seam fastball, so I know it's obviously a hard pitch, but like I can see a sink or a cut action, like it kind of fools you. But do you think they're like sitting on a specific pitch and just letting the fastball go, or?
Well, he also, he threw a bunch of other pitches, but he didn't really throw that many. He threw a sweeper, which is kind of like a slider, but everything else, like, a few curveballs. He only threw 9 curveballs, but he threw them on 2 strikes where he got that high break in it, and it came down at the chest level, and the umpire was calling a high strike tonight. He only threw 9 of those, 2 sliders, 1 sinker, 8 cutters. So it was primarily just painting the fastball, and he did that. He got fastballs in on right-handers as well as in on left-handers. He elevated the fastball a few times. It got some strikeouts, but he kept the ball in the zone, and I think that's what. If I was Pat Burrell, I'm like, why are we not attacking this guy? He's in the zone 0-1, 0-2 all the time. We should have had better contact.
Padres did to the Giants today.
Pardon me?
I feel like that's what the Padres did to the Giants today with putting the balls in play, doing that aspect of the game,
I agree, Mike, and that's kind of what I was saying to an earlier caller. They were pushing the ball the opposite way, opposite hits. Right-handers going to right field, left-handers going to left field. That's what I always thought the Giants did well at, and especially this past homestand. You saw Willie Adames going to right field a little bit more, Yaz going to left field a lot more, and that's making the ball travel in the zone a little bit longer and getting your hands back and driving the ball the opposite way. You have to do that at the big league level, because if I'm watching you as a hitter and you're pulling everything, I'm going to stay right on that outside corner, and you're going to pull out every time. You have to show me you can go the opposite way and show me you can do that for me to adjust my pitches to you.
Yeah, and talking about Willie Adames, I feel like him and Lamont Wade are like on the brink of, starting to really break out offensively, just because I thought Lamont had some great at-bats this weekend against the Rangers. There's one at bat where he hit a few foul balls like really hard. It's just, baseball, he had some bad luck. He couldn't get the ball in play. But, today he got the RBI, and then Willie got 2 hits today with the home run. And they were both really hard hits. So I feel like those 2 guys are like going to break out soon.
Yeah, and you can kind of see that in their approach when they're hitting a ball. You can see it off the end of the bat where the ball's traveling off the barrel. And you said it right. Lamont Wade Jr. went 0 for 4, and he hit 3 of them on the barrel Sunday. The one was almost a grand slam in the first inning, and then he fouled off a couple, and then he hit a bullet to second base to Simeon. He had another one deep to center field because the wind was blowing a little bit. But he's on the verge. Bob Melvin talked about it in the postgame tonight. He was happy that he kind of went to left field on that ball where he hit a double down the line, got a couple RBIs. And, these things are going to change. There's no question about it, Mike. These statistics will change and they'll flow, but I'm looking for them to, if they can squeeze out a game tomorrow and a win and come back home for 4 games against Colorado, that's the series where I think the offense can start gelling a little better.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's it's been a long month. They've played really good teams. They've had the 17 days straight. That's definitely got to be tough to start out the season. And I was looking at something online. It's where I think the Giants had one of the lowest amount of teams under 500 played compared to everyone else in the division. And so they've had a tough month. And these 2 games, I knew they were going to be tough because Clavetta has been pitching outstanding. And
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And when you're looking at 17-game stretch, and since the beginning of the season going into a 19-10 record before tonight's game, they played 15 games interleague already. They already played American League teams 15 times. Today was the first game they played with a team from the NL West. So it's usually just the opposite. If you remember last year, Mike, they played San Diego, LA, San Diego in the first 2 weeks of the season, and it was really difficult to get out of that.
Oh, yeah, no. So it's, if they can squeeze it out tomorrow, you split the 2-game series, and they go into Colorado, get the offense rolling, I think things start to look really, really good, even though they've been playing outstanding. But, yeah, it's just, I think even with Randy, what happened with Randy today, it's like he's pitched so amazing. Like it doesn't even like cross my mind to like even be upset or.
I agree with you. Did you happen to watch that hit by pitch? Did you happen to watch that game today?
Even close. It wasn't even close. I pulled it out on my phone and like I stopped it in slow motion, and I didn't understand the calling behind that.
I don't understand what the umpire in replay saw, because you never saw it hit him at all. You saw him pull back a little bit. He played it off really well to the umpire. And when you saw the ball, I mean, you saw Patrick Bailey catch the ball. There was nothing that touched him. And that's why they replayed it. And then when they said, no, it stands, I'm like, what did you see that we didn't see? Because I didn't see anything touch him. And I thought that was a little one-sided at that time. They could have easily changed that. Randy Rodriguez at that time, 2 fly ball outs, 1 line drive ball, I should say, that Ramos caught. But that would have been a nice 1-2-3 inning. That's how he's been pitching all year.
Yeah, and then the home run, it kind of like it just put the dagger in. But, he's been pitching so well. It's like, I even though that turn of events happened right there, it's kind of hard to even like look into that. It's just one of those games.
Well, these two teams, Mike, have the best bullpens in baseball. Number 1 is San Diego. Number 2 is San Francisco. When you look at what the Padres did, they dropped 4 relievers out there after. Only Estrada gave up 2 hits. Other than that, 1-2-3, 1-2-3, 1-2-3. They were dialed in. Jason Adams, he was big boy, about 6'6", 6'7". He punched out 2. And then Robert Suarez, he gets to his 11th save already, and he had a 1-2-3 inning in the 9th inning. They got an electric bullpen also, and I think that's what they've relied on in their record of 18-11 also.
Yeah, and, you're a pitcher. I wanted to ask you about this. What did you think about Duvall's slide step over the weekend? I thought it was amazing.
He's been pitching dynamic. I mean, he's throwing a ball over to first base now. And how about him covering first base, Mike? He's starting to be over there covering first base. The last out of that inning in the 9th inning, Lamont Wade Jr. just lobbed it over to him. And I don't know if that was just like, hey, you're here. I can't believe you're here now. But they've cleaned up some things with Duvall, especially throwing over to first, like you said, a slide step going home. He's still, how about 100 mile an hour punching out Ahmed, comes back with a 95 mile an hour slider. He's back in, and I'm really happy to see him fighting through the tribulations that he's had, and now he's on a nice 8 scoreless inning stretch.
Yeah, and I had my preseason, I had concerns about the bullpen because of the one lefty, but they obviously know a lot more than I do, and it's working amazing, and I'm glad it is, and I'm glad to see Camilo succeeding and all those guys succeed.
Yeah, I'm glad Ryan Walker got back on too. Those couple bad outings he had, and he came back and threw the ball extremely well against the Rangers, back-to-back games. I just thought he was overthrowing the slider when he blew that game in the bottom of the 9th of the Angels, just like he was trying too hard. His anxiety kind of, got in front of him, overthrowing the sinker, overthrowing the slider, and it just turned into a mess. And that was a tough loss for the Giants when they went on that 10-day road trip. That would have been a nice, they would have been 6-4, but they came back 5-5. But, when you looked at them taking 3 out of 4 from Milwaukee and then 2 out of 3 from the Rangers, that was an exciting homestand when they went 5-2.
Yeah, and the thing with Ryan Walker too is he's been so great the last year or so he's been with the Giants. It's it's baseball. He's bound to have a bad game or two. I just think that's part of it too. It's just baseball. That's part of the game.
It is 15 straight saves. When you look at it, yeah. Mike, that was his first save he blew 15 straight times, and he was really throwing into the closer's row when Duvall had a couple hiccups, and then he ended up going to AAA. He just didn't have any confidence last year, and Ryan Walker became the closer. I would have never saw that. They just said he was lights out, and he was with that 2-pitch mix he has. Gets a lot of ground balls. He gets that punch out with the slider. But now, I like what Bob Melvin says. I can go to either one. And really, when you're looking at, save opportunities, you don't have to go to that same guy every day. And it gives him 2 opportunities for that 8th and 9th inning. He's either a setup or a closer. Who we don't talk enough about, Mike, is Tyler Rogers. Tyler Rogers is just having another one of those great years. And it just seems like he comes in all the time in that setup inning, Mike, in the 8th inning. 1, 2, 3, or he gives up a hit or a walk. 1, 2, 3. And I think Giants fans need to praise him a little bit more.
Oh yeah, I think he does get a tough rap from some of the fans too. You know, I tune into the morning show, and there's a lot of the listeners have a love-hate relationship. But when you really like break it down and look at the numbers, innings pitched, he gets outs. You know, he throws strikes. He's super reliable. You know, he's been amazing.
He really has, and it's consistency every year too. And I had J.P. Martinez on the other day, and he was saying they need to choose him to be an all-star because he has that kind of stuff, and I really believe so too. When you look at his numbers, you're looking at 14 and a third innings, 8 hits, a .63 earned run average, Mike. That's impressive.
So, yeah, and it's he's awesome. Yeah, I love watching him pitch. It's cool to see something different.
Well, Mike, we got to get that win tomorrow. The Giants got to come home with a split. They'll feel a lot better with that, and then taking on the Rockies for 4, and we'll see where this all transpires before they hit the road next week and play the Cubs. But thanks for the call tonight. Thanks for the late night call. I appreciate your time. And when you're looking at what Tyler Rogers has done, and I'm pulling up numbers right now. They're very impressive. 14 and a third innings, 8 hits, 1 run. And it just goes on and on. His numbers are just so solid. And you look at consistency of them. And he doesn't throw hard. We know that. And a .63 earned average in 15 games. He's 2-0, 13 strikeouts. Just impressive. And I think we need to vote him in somehow, some way. Like J.P. Martinez says, he has to somehow slide in here. And 2 walks, 13 strikeouts. Very impressive. All right, 808 KNBR, if you want to get on the phone lines, you got Alex Simon coming up next to talk a little baseball with me. So we'll take it from there, and we'll take a quick break right here on Sports Phone KNBR and bring on Alex Simon next from the SF Gate right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
It sound right, boy.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
All right, back on Sports Phone KNBR with Bill Lasky on a Tuesday night. Giants lose the first of a two-game series against the San Diego Padres in San Diego after they have a day off yesterday after 17 straight. The Bats just couldn't catch up today. 14 strikeouts, and they only end up having 4 runs on 7 hits. They got back in this game to make it 5-4, but a home run by Bogaerts just opened the game up, and the Giants could not catch up. Tomorrow, 1:10 first pitch. Michael King, 3-1 with a 2.1 earned run average for the San Diego Padres against Landon Root. He's also 2-1 with a 4.5 earned run average, a good matchup of a couple right-handers. All right, my buddy Alex Simon is on. You can read him. He's on SF Gate. He's a sports editor. You can also follow him on X at Alex Simon Sports. How you doing, Alex? What's going on, buddy?
Bill, I'm doing all right. It certainly was an interesting game tonight, and you don't want to take too much out of it, but I do think the first division game of the season, with how well things have gone, took on a little bit of extra importance for the fan base. And that game against the bullpen, the Padres bullpen is legit, and we got to see it tonight.
Yeah, they're number 1, and the Giants are number 2, and you saw the fans come out to Petco Park. They packed it in for tonight's game. Of course, it was Tony Gwynn bobblehead night, which is pretty cool. 1982 bobblehead they brought back. I thought that's pretty cool when they did the bobbleheads of the good, great players. They always did it for Mays and McCovey and Marichal. What do you think of that, going back in time with some of these guys?
I think, look, Tony Gwynn is about as beloved of a player as you can find in any organization. He's May's level and maybe even then some relative to the Padres because of how much he means there. Bill, what I found was cool is they did this on a Tuesday night. They've had an incredible fan turnout there now for several years since they've invested so much into the roster and adding the free agents and finding the stars from within. But to do this on a Tuesday night, and Bill, was the second largest crowd to ever go to a game at Petco Park history, to kind of fill it on a Tuesday night, especially with a big opponent in town. It was, I think, a brilliant call, and I think it made a difference tonight, to be honest.
It does. It was impressive, no question about it. Kipe and Kirk were talking a lot of it on TV side, and, when you look in the stands, I mean, you've been to Petco, so have I, and the upper deck is pretty full tonight, and you very seldom see that upper deck that full, but tonight they did it, and you know what? The Padres came out with Logan Webb, and I've been talking about this pretty much the whole show, Alex, was he got the first 2 guys out in the first inning. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to have a nice 1, 2, 3 inning, get back in the dugout. I mean, that's what Pivetta did in his first inning, and it exploded on him. But, they went after the first or second pitch. This is what I kept saying. When you got a guy like Logan Webb, he's going to attack the zone, and they went opposite way a lot, and it really produced those early runs.
Yeah, I will say the moment that I think maybe he looked like he could have gotten out of it is actually when he gets Gavin Sheets up after giving up the single Machado, and he just missed those first 2 pitches to Sheets, and at that point he walked him on 5 pitches. But the ball 1 and ball 2 are just off the plate on both of those, and then you walk him, and that leads to the Bogaerts single, that leads to then Iglesias getting a single. And from there, that's 3 runs kind of in the blink of an eye. Like you said, they both attacked. Bogaerts with the second pitch, the at-bat, Iglesias the first pitch. And all of a sudden you're looking up thinking, what just happened, and how are they already got 3 on the board? So that's I certainly agree. This is obviously, there's some ownage, I think you can say, for Manny Machado against Webb. He came into tonight with some huge numbers against him. It adds 2 more hits today. So it might just be a bad matchup, but it's a tough luck loss for Webb, and I don't think he was bad, but I certainly think what the Giants have found again and again and again this season is even if you don't win tonight, that you were able to get back and get 3 in the 6, and especially to see who was leading your rally tonight. That doesn't get all the way, but to have Adames go 2 for 4 tonight, a double and a homer, Lamont Wade with that double to knock into. These are the guys that you need to start seeing turn their season around a little bit. So for both of them to have a nice moment at the plate tonight, even in a loss, that's a pretty huge takeaway for the Giants.
Oh, I totally agree with you, Alex. And just that exciting homestand and finally getting a day off in San Diego. Most of these guys, I heard Elliot Ramos on Sunday said, I'm going to sleep, and when I wake up, I'm going to eat as much as I can. And that kind of tells you what 17 games straight does. It really, you can't catch up on sleep. You and I have talked about so much when you travel to the East Coast, it changes the ticker in your brain and your body, and then you come back on the West Coast. That's why I thought that homestand was really important, especially taking 3 out of 4 from Milwaukee, and Milwaukee throwing the ball around, dropping balls in the outfield. And I thought they really gained some momentum going into that Ranger series.
They certainly did. And I mean, look, this is a team that, at 19-11, even with the loss tonight, you still are, I think, maybe the second or third best team in the entire league, not just the National League, but all of baseball in that regard. So you're doing everything that you would want them to do. Obviously, this is a quick little 2-game set. The Padres are right there with you. You would love to be able to figure out a way to get a split tomorrow, so that way you're feeling extra confident that, this one game's a fluke. You don't want to make too much out of just 2 games, but I certainly think they feel confident that they can come into San Diego and beat this team. You just have to go do it.
Yeah, I had Tony Gwynn Jr. on last night. I was on Sports Phone KNBR, and we were talking about Nick Pivetta, and he said he lives in that elevated fastball and upper zone. And he got a lot of high curveballs up there tonight, which that was unexpected to me when you see a curveball that high that dips it right underneath the chest, and he was giving that strike to him. And, he said Nick Pivetta came into spring training as like the 5th starter. They never even had him penciled in, and he's battled. And when you look at his stats for the year, he's 5-1, and he's just got a little over a 2-point earned run average tonight because they gave up 3 earned runs. But he has dazzled for him. I was throwing numbers out. The last 20 innings, he only gave up 1 earned run coming into the night. And you look at his other numbers, 4 walks, 22 strikeouts. Tonight he backs it up with 1 walk and 9 strikeouts, and they really picked up a gem here.
I mean, I'm going to be honest, he's their ace right now. I know Michael King's been really good too, but for Pivetta to do this, I guess, especially looking at him doing it against a lineup like the Giants, who has been really solid at points this year, he's looked every bit of what you would hope that you could be able to get, and especially to do it where, in the modern day, with the way that pitchers kind of start the season, he's not throwing the type of velocity that you would feel would overpower you, and to still end up with 39 strikeouts so far. And I think the big key, Bill,
that's surprising, isn't it? I mean, I tell you these numbers, you'd say, Nick who? Really? Who is this guy? Because I remembered him in back days, but he was always an average pitcher. And then here's the other one that Tony Gwynn Jr. was telling me. His splits against left-handers and right-handers, 0.78 against left-handers. You never see a right-hander like that going against left-handers. 0.78? And when you start looking at what Yaz goes 0 for 4, Jung-Hoo Lee goes 1 for 4, then you look at Lamont goes 1 for 3, Bailey goes 1 for 4, you still dialed in against left-handers.
I think that's the thing about pitching, and you obviously could speak to this far better than I can, Bill, but the thing about it is that it is truly one of the few kind of athletic marvels out there where you don't actually need to be in what you would call, your athletic peak prime to be effective. We've seen guys, even in the 2000s, in, this millennium, pitch deep into their 40s. I think Jamie Moyer was, 49, and was still an effective big league pitcher at that age. Because sometimes it takes a while to figure out how to utilize what you can do best. And I think Nick Pivetta, if this is as legit as it looks, and it looks pretty legit, he certainly is somebody who could, become a problem for the Giants and facing him against the Padres for so long. And the Giants are hoping, on the other end of the spectrum, Justin Verlander is somebody who I think is looking better and better each time he goes out, that you would hope when he goes out on Thursday night against a hapless Rockies team, he can just mow through them and finally get that first win of the season.
Well, you look at Pivetta one more time, 32 years old, and he's jumped around a little bit in his career, but he has definitely stabilized that rotation, like you said. And tomorrow, Michael King, they picked up from the Yankees, he's been dialed in, and Tony Gwynn Jr. saying his sinker and his movement on pitches has just been fabulous, a lot of ground ball outs. And this is something they're going to have to do something different tomorrow. And, I mentioned this, Alex, earlier in the show, and I pumped it in. 14 strikeouts, 8 of them looking. You write about these Giants. You watch this Giants team. What do you say when you see 14 strikeouts out of 27 outs?
I think there's probably a school of thought from people who are a little bit older that's you can't take strike 3. And I think a lot of the modern method of teaching hitting is you guess very much more often, I think, than you used to, and you're not as protective at the plate. And you, obviously, when you do that, you sometimes are going to look at a pitch and say, I can't hit that because I'm not prepared for it, so let me let it go and hope it's off the edge of the plate. Yeah. And I think what we've seen is it's better sometimes to not force a swing and either hurt yourself if you're trying to do a safety swing, or more to the point, hit into a double play if there's runners on base, than it is to go do that. I certainly think, the Giants have changed their attitude a bunch, but tonight, that's just a hot pitcher and a hot pitching staff that was just pinpoint all throughout the evening when they got their pitches over. And I certainly think,
Alex,
for that one inning, that was the only time that the Giants really kind of were able to battle against them. But tonight you just tip your hat to a team that pitched well and you move on.
Alex Simon joining me on Sports Phone KNBR. And, you start looking at pitching. You talked about this a minute ago with starters not going deep into games. He went 5 1/3 innings. Then you turn it over to a dialed-in bullpen. That's where I say each inning, every reliever just gets 1 inning here. You don't see them too many get 2 or 3 to end a game like when I used to play, And this is where I think you get more strikeouts because you're seeing a guy for 1 at bat. You're not getting to something that you can pick up on. And this Padre and Giants bullpen are like that. When you look at all the arm slots that the Giants have coming out of the bullpen, everybody's different. You got a guy throwing 96. You got Tyler Rogers throwing 86. You got, Eric Miller from the side, and he's starting to sling that ball a little bit more. He threw the ball real good tonight. And then I really like Lou Trevino. Something about him, I just like how he pitched. He got beat up last time. Today, I thought he got back in the zone really well and got a lot of, I think he ended up getting a couple ground ball outs. But other than that, I think this bullpen's really been solid for the Giants.
Yeah, and tonight obviously was not Randy Rodriguez. I think it's the first time Randy Rodriguez has really struggled at all. And in struggling, he only gave up 1 hit. Unfortunately, I think the error made it worse for him to then give up the 2-run homer to Bogarts there in the 7th. But, for Rodriguez, he certainly looks like a guy that I look at and say he's been fantastic this season, and it's just a little bit different. Even guys who seem like they're coming from the same arm slot, like Doval and Walker, they deliver it in such a different way that it's not at all similar inside the batter's box. And so the Giants and this Padres team is very similar in that regard, where they've got such a diverse group of arms and they all do subtly different things from each other, that even if it looks like they might be a little similar, they're not when you're actually in the box. And it's a nightmare in the box. Hitting isn't fun, Bill, and the Giants not in this day and age.
Hitting isn't fun, and you're asking that to a pitcher. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, Alex, you mentioned Justin Verlander. How about Justin Verlander, Robbie Ray, and Jordan Hicks in their last starts against the Rangers? Go 18 innings, 17 hits, 6 earned runs. They each give up 2. But the big numbers were 2 walks and 16 strikeouts. All 3 of them look so much better this last outing. They're looking more comfortable. They're looking to use more of their pitches. Jordan Hicks didn't walk anybody in his 5 innings. Struggled a little bit in the first inning. He got dinked a little bit, too, in that first inning. A couple, bloop hits. But he managed to come back in that game. I was very impressed with all 3 of them.
Yeah, and look, this is a Rangers offense that just went out tonight and put up 15 on the 8th. Yeah. So for the Giants all weekend to really keep their bats at bay, it looks more impressive now than it even did over the weekend when it was awfully impressive anyway. And especially, again, the bullpen shut down any opportunity for Texas to add on all weekend long. Obviously, the Giants offense struggled on Friday night and even took a little bit of Saturday to get going. But this is a really good baseball team, and you don't want to overemphasize. There's still so much of this season left. We're at 30 games now. That's a pretty significant amount to get a full month plus now through opening day. And everything about this Giants team is screaming that this is a high-quality ball club. Are they going to be able to sustain it? We'll have to find out. But they've got all the pieces that would make you think that this is very sustainable for them.
Alex Simon joined me on for a few more minutes on Sports Phone KNBR. You can read his work at SF Gate. There's a lot of good, interesting information and articles. Well, let's just take a little look into the month of May. Let's just take a look at that. And, I'm looking at the schedule now. Of course, after they finish Colorado, they play the Cubs for 3, Minnesota for 3. That's a good little road trip. They come home for a nice 9-game homestand, and that's when they're going to see the Diamondbacks for the first time for 3. They play the Athletics and the Royals. And right then and there, I think that's a pretty good schedule right there when you're looking at the first 21 days. And then they travel to Washington and Detroit. When you look at this schedule, Alex, it's sustainable. There's ways that you can make a big mark in the NL West with this schedule.
But I think it's fascinating. If you look at around Major League Baseball so far and kind of look at strength of schedule metrics and who's played what, the Giants have played among the fewest games against teams that are at or below 500 so far this season. Mm-hmm. You're finally to see the Rockies come in here for 4 games starting on Thursday. And really, I think it's been just the Reds this season out of everybody on the Giants schedule that is below 500. And the Giants obviously have now played all 6 games against Cincinnati, but now the Reds have kind of started to surge and they're above 500. So when you look at the teams the Giants have played this year, pretty much they've gone through a gauntlet already. And out of that gauntlet, they've emerged and are looking as good as they are. Where you look at that and you say, if you can kind of, you're going to take on the Rockies here, who are, maybe going to be the worst team we've ever seen after that was the White Sox last year. The Rockies are going to race to the bottom there. You're going to have the Marlins and the Nationals this month. Yeah. Detroit's looking really solid, but there's a bunch of games, I think, coming up this month where you look at and say, these teams are struggling and the Giants need to take advantage of the opportunities they finally get against those teams, especially with how good they've looked against the quality competition.
Alex, when you look at starting pitching, and the Giants are 17-4 against right-handers, 2-7 against left-handers, why do you think they can't hit left-handed starters? Because I look at this right-handed lineup, and it's pretty strong for them, but they are just having troubles. They can't get anything going against left-handed starters this year.
Well, I think, for one, the lefties have been spread out in such a way that it's hard for the guys when they do finally plug in. There's not really any platoons anymore on this Giants roster, but there's a couple subtle ones. And there's not enough opportunities, I think, for all of them to get consistent playing time. Mm-hmm. Luis Matos has been on this roster all season long, and the Giants have tried to figure out ways to get him opportunities. But how are you going to take Mike Yastrzemski's bat out of the lineup right now with how hot he's hitting? You want Jung-Hoo Lee and Elliot Ramos to play as many games as possible. So it's understandable that, we're 30 games into the season for the Giants. And I don't think Matos, even to this point, he only has 38 at-bats through 30 games. Mm-hmm. He's only played in 12 games. Sam Huff as the backup catcher has played even 1 game less. And that's even with them, maybe being a little more diligent to put him into games to get Bailey some rest. The problem is this is a roster that didn't want a platoon, which is fine, but it definitely puts, I think, a little more onus on those guys to be ready to go the moment they get that. And that's hard to do as a hitter. It doesn't help, too, that a couple of the guys that we mentioned that are struggling, like Adames, usually crushes lefties. Ramos has been a little hit or miss at different points during the season, and he's usually dominant against lefties. Tyler Fitzgerald has started to get it together, but when your best hitter so far this season has been Jung-Hoo Lee and Yaz, they're 2 lefties. You can only probably play one of them if a lefty's on the mound. It's usually been Jung-Hoo, who's actually been great against lefties. But it's kind of an opportunity issue, and then once you get your opportunity, it's a little bit of a daunting thing to just show up and be like, hey, now you got to make this work. There's a lot of pressure there.
Well, tomorrow, Landon Ruppek out on the mound. He pitched so well against the Angels, against the Brewers, struggled a little bit. He really dominated with just fastball and curveball. He's talking about the cutter and the changeup. I'm hoping that tomorrow we see a little bit more of that in his arsenal. What do you see out of him against the Padres?
It's going to be a fascinating test because this is a very deep lineup. And I think what we've seen this year, and it's kind of proven in games, he's starting because he has a 4-pitch mix, and he's able to utilize, obviously, the curveball, which is one of the better individual pitches that anybody throws on this Giant staff. But beyond that, he's still able to work off with the new slider that he's got, with the little cutter and with the fastball to go off of that and really make an interesting mix. that is hard for hitters to know what is coming. Can he utilize that against a pretty good lineup in San Diego and find 5 shutout, 6 innings, a 2-run ball? He certainly has the capability to do it, and I think the Giants could really utilize a nice start out of this to get ready for what should be a pretty rested and ready bullpen after they really didn't use any of them except for Doval for 1 inning on Sunday. And other than the Rodriguez and Trevino innings, they didn't use many of the guys tonight either. So the bullpen should be in great shape tomorrow, that if you need to be a little more diligent with Reap, tell them to attack extra hard, go 5 innings, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think a split tomorrow would get them on that plane with a smile on their face after tonight's game, punching out 14 times. I really want to see a better disciplined batting order tomorrow and some better at-bats. And I hope Landon Roop uses all those 4 pitches, because I just don't want him to go out there with a 2-pitch mix, because these guys are too good of hitters with the Padres. He's got to use all 4 pitches, and we'll probably see Bailey back in there tomorrow, and that'll help. But, Alex, thanks again, my friend. Good stuff always. And once again, fans, please read Alex Simon. He's on SF Gate. Alex, have a great rest of the night, my friend.
Absolutely. You have a great night too, Bill. Thank you.
All right, that was Alex Simon on Sports Phone KNBR. We'll be right back with more right here on KNBR, the sports leader.
Giants fans, this is your hub to have your voice heard. Sports Phone KNBR. Streaming live on YouTube at KNBR 1045.
Welcome back to Sports Phone KNBR with Bill Lasky as we finish out a Tuesday post-game show. Giants lose the first game of a two-game series against the Padres 7-4. 7 runs, 11 hits, 1 error for the Padres. 4 runs, 7 hits, 1 error for the Giants. The Giants are now 19-11 with 1 game left. First pitch tomorrow. It's an afternoon game, 1:10 right here on KNBR. Landon Roop goes against Michael King, and then the Giants come home for 4 games at Oracle Park. I want to thank Alex Simon from SFK for joining me tonight. You can hear him on the All KNBR podcast. Thank my producer, Raph, did a great job. And I want to thank Jordan for picking up the phone calls. And thank you, Giants fans, for listening in. I'll be back on Friday night for a post-game show. And, of course, extra innings on Saturday and Sunday. For Bill Lasky, be safe, be well, have a great rest of the night. More coming up right here on KNBR, the Sports Leader.
and 680, the Sports Leader.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why, when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
All power, zero compromise. Ego cordless outdoor power equipment features advanced lithium battery technology that exceeds the power and performance of gas without the noise, fuss, or fumes. From blowers and trimmers to mowers and pressure washers, one battery powers over 90 tools. No wonder it is the #1 rated brand in cordless outdoor power. Power beyond belief. Visit egopowerplus.com to learn more or to find an Ego retailer near you. That's egopowerplus.com.
Do you call charging thousands of dollars for hearing aids? At MD Hearing, we call it outrageous, because hearing should not be a privilege for the rich. It's a basic need everyone deserves. Hi, I'm Dr. Sandra Porps, head of audiology at MD Hearing. If you or a loved one have trouble hearing but don't want to waste thousands for a hearing aid, MD Hearing was created for you by doctors and audiologists. A high-quality, FDA-registered hearing aid for a fraction of the price. No costly doctor visits, no expensive and time-consuming fittings, no bulky, old-fashioned hearing aids that cost thousands. The MD Hearing Neo is just $297 per pair. It's rechargeable and fits discreetly in your ear. Even better, it lets you hear what you've been missing at a savings of more than 90% off the average price of a traditional hearing aid.
Try MD Hearing risk-free for 45 days by calling 800-918-3920. Plus, you'll get free shipping. Call now, 800-918-3920. That's 800-918-3920.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There is a tremendous price war in the term life industry. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man aged 45, non-smoker, can get $1 million of coverage for $75 per month, level rate for 10 years. Or a man aged 50, non-smoker, can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of $110, level rate for 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rate for 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates available for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call today for a quote. 1-800-908-7636. You're probably paying more than you should. Call 1-800-908-7636. Remember, 1-800-908-7636. Sample rate quotes based on preferred non-smoker rate class. Exam required to qualify.
The IRS, the world's most aggressive collection agency. They can seize your property, bank account, and garnish your wages. They cause sleepless nights for millions of Americans. Don't be one of them. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, get protected today. Call 800-2